Last week I made this stand for my miter box saw, which is working out great. But we need a drawer for right here. So today, I'm gonna make a drawer. Hi, my name is Bob, and I love my two-car garage. Making your drawers is the last thing you're gonna do. You're gonna make your drawers fit your cabinet. Now you gotta decide what kind of material you're gonna use. I really like this 9-ply plywood right here that this drawer is made out of, but you want some kind of 1/2-inch material. Now I have a lot of poplar around, so I'm going to use this poplar, so solid wood is a really good choice too. Solid wood is what you would use if you're doing a nice piece of furniture. This is 3/4 inch material, so I'm going to have to plane it down to 1/2 inch. Now before I plane down that wood, I'm going to go ahead and cut it. I'm going to rip it to the width that I want. This drawer is 4.5 inches, so I'm going to rip those sides down to 4 inches. Now if you're using a different type of drawer guide, you may need to make it a little tighter. I'm using these ball bearing guides that really will allow me to make the drawer as wide as I want it. Couple notes on using the planer. Should only take off about 1/16 of an inch at a time. It's going to keep it from tearing out. Also, you should take a look at the grain of the wood. And the grain of the wood is pointing uphill. Then you want the downhill side of the grain to go in first, and that way it won't rip into your wood. One of the really cool things about using the planer is you end up with all these cool chips that if you got kids, they're going to have a lot of fun with this. Or you could maybe use it for rabbet stuff. My sides are going to be 18 inches long, same length as my drawer guides here. And my front and back are going to be the width of the opening minus the thickness of this, minus the thickness of my joint. I'm going to do what's called a locking rabbet joint on my sides and on my ends. It's going to look like that. Alright, so to start off with, I stacked up a dado head on here with 2 blades. Scrap piece here that I've created to pull it away from the blade, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch on this side. So I'm just going to move this over until this side of the board lines up with this side of the blade. And it took a couple passes to get it just right, but I'm 1/2 inch out from the end, and I'm 1/4 inch deep. Now all I got to do is put this sacrificial piece on my drip fence, clamp it down, and I should be really close to where I need to be. It took me about 5 minutes to move the fence back and forth just right, and to move the blade up and down to get the perfect little fit. But right now, it's fitting great. All my joints are cut, and all I need to do is groove the bottom for the bottom. I've messed this up before, so I'm going to lay it out here and make sure I don't mess it up this time. I'm going to put a groove there, I'm going to put a groove there, and there, and there. I also think that this is kind of a big drawer, so I'm going to put some dividers in here. I'm going to put a groove like right in here and right in here, so I can slide in a 1/4 inch piece of plywood later to make it a divided drawer. Just like that. I cut my bottom 1/16 inch smaller than what it needed to be to fit inside the grooves. So it's going to have a little wiggle room. It's going to be able to move around inside the bottom of the drawer. And I'm going to put each of these joints together with some glue and use my little brad nailer to nail it together with. Here's my finished drawer box with my beautiful little locking rabbet joints here. I still need to make a front and put on the drawer guides. Just one more reason to have a router. I'm going to take this little rounding over bit here, and I'm going to run it along the edge of both edges of each side, and on the inside of the front, and on the inside of the back. And a little sanding would be in order at this point. I cut this piece of alder for my front, which is going to be inset. I'm going to cut it 3/16 of an inch less than this dimension and this dimension. I'm going to scoop the front edge, or the front of the drawer. So I made this little template, just cut that out on my table saw. I clamp this right to here, and then I'm going to use this flush cutting bit on my router to cut out the front of the box and the front of the front. All right, looky there. Nice little scoop. Burned a little bit because my router bit wasn't real sharp, but get yourself a nice sharp router bit and that'll never happen. All right, so I'm ready to put the drawer guides on. I'm gonna put this piece on this side, on the sides like this. What I like to do is actually measure from both edges to the center, front and back, punch it with a scratch awl, and then put in my screws, and that way I'm nice and centered in the middle of the side. Doesn't really matter where you position the drawer slide. It can be lower on the drawer or it can be in the middle, but you want it to be, again, as accurate as possible. To begin with, I'm only going to put in 2 screws. I'm going to put one in the front and one in the back, and I'm going to use one of the slotted positions, and that way if I need to make some adjustments later, I can. Do as much as possible when you install the hardware on the cabinet side to make it easy on yourself. I put a little spacer right here to hold the drawer guide up, and I made a little mark because it needs to be 3/4 of an inch back. Now I only put 2 screws in to start with, which really isn't enough, but I want to come back later and maybe make some adjustments. Eventually, you need to fill up a bunch of those holes with screws. Doesn't matter how highly rated your drawer guide is. If you don't have enough screws in it, it's going to fall off. Spent some time making sure that this front fit exactly like I want it to fit. I moved this drawer guide back and forth a little bit, and right now it's just like I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the screws in those side mounts. This is where you're going to fudge maybe a little bit. If this isn't in there perfect, you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to set my drawer front in there like that, and then I'm just going to eyeball the reveal all the way around, and rather than try to measure and screw, I'm going to take my little pin nailer, and with it in perfect position, I'm going to shoot a little nail right there, and you're never going to see it. That's not enough to hold it on, but with it in position, I'm going to pull the drawer out and put some screws in it from the back side. All right, and there we have it, a nice little drawer to put all my miter box gadgets in, like this, and these, and this. I have no idea where this came from. It's gonna work great. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and remember, a man skilled in his work will stand before kings. So do your very best. People will notice.